Yes. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the dialogue on mobilizing local resources through social startups by Sustainable Development Council in partner with UN SDG Action Campaign Act for SDGs on the theme Localizing SDGs. Myself, Avinash Ashok, the Director of Sustainable Development Council. Here at Sustainable Development Council, we bring individuals, organizations together, categorize joint actions, and create synergy around sustainable development goals. Through the series of turning point dialogues, we could strengthen the awareness on the connections between local actions, national priorities, and global goals, sharing localized practices and experiences, and feeding results into a global action policy making arena. Here with us, we have three eminent personalities with us to join the panel to have a talk on localizing SDGs and on the specific topic, mobilizing local resources through social startups. Please allow me to introduce the panelists. First of all, we have Sri Sinjini Sengupta, founder of Lighthouse. Lighthouse is a social startup which is transforming lives through the power of storytelling. She is also the national president of mentoring and soft skills at Women Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries, winner of many national international awards, including the iconic Women Award at the Women Economic Forum 2017 and the South Asia Fellows of Nature Anthology. It's a great honor to have you on board for the dialogue, ma'am. Welcome, Sinjini, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me. Absolutely a pleasure, and it's an honor to share the stage with the rest of you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Next, we have Sri Gaurav Jain. He's the co-founder of X Billion Skills Hub. X Billion Skills Hub is on a mission to enhance the workplace intelligence of young India. An ex-civil servant and awarded with the highest zonal level recognition in the Indian Railways for excellent and meritorious service in 2018. Welcome, Gaurav, to the panel.
Thank you so much, Avinash, and great to see you, Sinjini, and we look forward to having a good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. Next, we have Sri Neenu Rathin, founder The Social Town. The Social Town is an online networking platform for community builders and social change makers. A college lecturer turned social entrepreneur, Neenu Rathin was a former project coordinator at Chekuti, a mascot for resilience during Kerala floods. She also brings to the table full of experience and knowledge with the association with many national and international NGOs and community development projects. Thank you so much, Neenu, to be a part of this panel. Thank you so much and welcoming to the panel on localizing SDGs and mobilizing local resources through social startups. Welcome, Neenu.
Thank you, Avinash. Thank you, Avinash. And thank you, Gaurav and Jain and Sinjini Sengupta. So looking forward for a great interaction.
Yes, indeed. So, audience, we will be breaking this session into two parts. In the first session, we will be in this first 60 minutes. We will be having a talk by the speakers, and each speaker will be getting 20 minutes each to specify their area of expertise, where how they are contributing through their social startups and their involvement in various areas, projects, community development projects, in how they're contributing to the SDG development. And towards the end, 20-30 minutes, we will be having a Q&A session where the audience, we are having live stream on YouTube and Facebook as well. So we will be taking some couple of questions from the audience as well, and we could wind up the 90-minute session. So looking forward for enriching, productive 90 minutes of talk with the dialogue with three great personalities out here. So let me start off from Sinjini Sengupta from Lighthouse. Ma'am, could you give your opening remark on how you at Lighthouse, how you are contributing to the SDG development, and what areas are you specifically focusing? The stage is yours, ma'am.
Right. Thank you so much, Avinash. You said that each one of us have 20 minutes. And I wanted to tell you that, do you know that the human attention span at the moment is less than that of a goldfish? Actually, at about 8 seconds. And even that's like an exaggeration. How much time do you take to scroll up your Facebook feed or your LinkedIn feed and decide whether you want to stop and read this or watch this, or whether you just want to move on? How many seconds? I think split of a second. I do exactly that. I help people make sense and hook audience so that they are heard, so that they are visible, so that they can show up, so that they can make meaning. And put simply, I help people to tell the world why they do what they do and how that matters. Because just that gap between the mouth and the rim of the tea cup, is where our biggest gap lies, and we all slip through it. So I help people to bridge that gap between the lip and the cup. The childhood we all had, most of us had. In fact, if you are anything like me, I grew up on a very strict diet of Cerelac, Horlicks, and then the Great Indian Myth. And what is the Great Indian Myth? Now, the Great Indian Myth says that only if you study hard, the rest of your life is going to be a cakewalk. We have all heard that, right? Growing up, just study hard. Don't talk, just listen to your teachers, study hard, cram notes, crack exams, crack job interviews, get a good job, get a good promotion, be obedient, listen to others, don't speak, don't stand out, don't go against the crowd. Doesn't work. Plain doesn't work. One simple answer doesn't work. Growing up, and I grew up with that paradigm, which most of us 80s kids, 90s kids even have grown up with. I had a huge burnout after 12 years of a very rigorous corporate career with a pretty sharp career ladder, I would say. When I had a burnout, the thing is that I felt that it's happening only to me. When I felt, I am in that pressure, that stress, I'm like a pressure cooker, and I'm at the receiving end, I'm victimized, I'm I don't know where to go, what's happening, what's the meaning, what's the purpose. I didn't have anybody to look up to because nobody was talking about it. It took me 5-6 years of I don't know what. You can see my background actually, and I actually dug myself a burrow and went inside books to understand what happened to me. I studied gender studies to understand if it is gendered, and yes, a part of it is. I studied mental health to understand, am I really crazy? And yes, part of it is that we are all crazy. I also tried to understand that, okay, fine, I have certain abilities, I have certain love for certain things. I love to do certain things, I don't love to do certain things. Certain things I absolutely have to push myself. Certain things I would procrastinate, I would rather give my right arm than to do them. And somehow our education system does not identify what we like, what we dislike, what we are good at, what excites us, what is our dream. It puts us on the straight highway of career. I had no idea that there is United Nations that is formulating some long list of SDG goals. My problem was personal, and nobody was talking on it, because every time I looked on social media, every time I looked at a social gathering, being a young mother at any social gathering, why is your child so thin, etc. Somewhere we were all photoshopping our images, literally as well as metaphorically. We were all brushing it with white paint brushes and showing up like glittery outsides. It took me all that studying, took me all that deep work. I went to Vipassana 5 times, thousands of hours of silent meditation to understand what's wrong with me, and is it me? Am I broken, or is the system broken? Because something was broken. It took me a whole lot of time to understand this one simple thing. The personal is political. The personal is political. The personal is universal. And as we are talking about SDGs today, and we are talking about localizing SDGs, I feel that this is the most important thing to understand. We are not as worried, to be very honest. I mean, it may sound ridiculous, but it is true. Am I as worried about dying baby penguins in the polar regions? Or am I more worried about whether my child is safe when he comes back from school and, given all these incidences happening? If we do not feel it to our gut, if the problem is not personal, if the problem is not felt, we can have these large initiatives, but that will largely remain externalized. My work with Lighthouse, to repeat, is to help people tell why they do what they do and how that matters. Simple question, but I did not know the answer to that for the longest time until I really dug deep into that burrow and tried to discover myself and the world around me. What do I do? How does that matter? How does that help? Why do I do that? There are so many SDG goals. Why is SDG 3, 4, and 5 my choice? 3 being, of course, the mental health. And it's not even, there was a time when psychology as a study was the study of mad people, crazy people, totally out of behavior, people running naked on the road. It is not that. At the moment, the social average level of happiness, contentment, fulfillment, general living, wanting to wake up in the morning and leave the bed is so drastically alarming that it is a social epidemic. The mental health is not really personal anymore. Of course, when we are really pushed to the wall, when we are really failing and flailing and flunking, we perhaps, and that too, only so few of us have the courage, money, resources, connections, awareness, whatever, to take ourselves to a therapist. What is the percentage of that? What is the impact of that? What is the durability of that? And what is also the solution of that? One-to-one therapy sessions, I don't want to outcry or say that it doesn't work, but really, is that the solution to this global epidemic unhappiness? We don't have trust at work. We work under fear psychosis, under the very corporate structure, which is very the policy itself is so stringent that we don't show up as humans. We are like just getting our jobs done. And I think the pandemic was a huge reminder, because now when I, as a corporate person, if somebody raises an IT ticket, they see the father behind that person who has a tat of 24 hours. I think we have humanized our colleagues through this distance of digital media. But somehow workplaces where I can even go to the stretch of saying it's toxic at times. It's fearful. Do we feel happy when we swipe that card and enter through that glass door every day, or do we feel happy when we step out of it in the evening? So general happiness levels, the engagement level, the sense of belonging, that is dwindling. One, and we need to be in touch with ourselves, but we don't have time for that, because in the morning we are seeing off our children, then we are rushing for breakfast, going to work, coming back from work, and somehow we are always postponing the idea of happiness, and we are thinking it is a different pursuit. Work is different, professional is different, social is different, and internal is different, but they are not. Today the time has come that we need to integrate this. I love this one line that I read by Chris Anderson, who is the owner of TED. And he says this beautifully, that in today's time and age, when technology can practically do most of the things we used to do in the past, the only way left to be human is to be human. So at Lighthouse, my first priority is to humanize people through their authentic stories. I work with corporates, I work with business houses, and I also work with corporate leaders individually to help them tell what they do, how that matters, and why they do it. Why are they the right person to do it? Why is the transport head the transport head? Can he come up with some kind of anecdote that he saw in terms of roadside accident, and hence this prevention policy, hence this safety policy? Can she, the HR head, come up with the reason why she feels so strongly about human reserves and the potential, beyond just looking at them as resources, pieces of resources to be fit into the puzzle? So I help leaders to tell why they do what they do, and how they matter in the world, in the corporate, outside the corporate. I also work with a lot of founders, because I feel that most of the founders, unlike the corporate jobs, I myself being one, we have a very strong reason for doing what we do. Because corporate, of course, we crack a job interview, then they hand over a KRA to us, and we of course, perform based on that. We forget, we confuse job versus career. So we are always busy what to do today, what to do this week, rather than what happens to us in a long frame and who is in the future. However, as entrepreneurs, we have big dreams. But at the same time, we don't often have the articulation. We often also cannot see beyond the immediate because we are so busy, and we think that the marketing piece can be given out to somebody. Okay, social media marketing, it only, the things I need to know is when to post, what to post, balance of picture and text, writing copies, hooking the first line, etc. But there is no heart in the communication, and that is exactly where we miss the point by a mile. We have to stand out, not by our skills but by our soulfulness, because people are not any longer looking for a capitalist competition, and we cannot outmarket an Amazon or somebody big. We can only talk to their pains, we can talk to their dreams, we can talk to their desires, and we can help them understand, what, I know your problem, and which is why I am spending my lifetime solving that, because it was my problem once. This is how I solved it, I'll solve it for you. This is how you do it. And that environment of trust is something that even if you make a mistake, even if you deliver a faulty product, you have the trust. Even if you pivot tomorrow, even if you do something else, and today the world is both democratic, whoever speaks can be listened to, because we all have the mic amplifier, the digital amplifier in our hand. And there's a second thing, you cannot hide. I'm talking here, but I'm sure so many of the audience who's listening to me now or maybe later on in recording, it's so easy for them to type me out on LinkedIn and send me a invite, or to look me up on a website like lighthouse.co.in. You just type and they get my life's history. And people are actually invested in each other, especially if we are smaller entrepreneurs. We need to show up as humans, because our products cannot just jostle each other out, elbow fight each other out. We have to show up as human and solve the intrinsic problem. What are the emotional appeals of my program? What is the reason why I am doing what I am doing? I have been burnt out. I know I didn't know why I do what I do. I found out through a very large, dwindling path, and I know exactly how to do it. Here I am offering that to you. I will help you find your story. And with that story, you can create not just your impact, but your trust with people. So that speaks to people more than, advertising boxes wrapped in gold ribbons. So I work with leaders, I work with founders, and finally, I also work a lot with incubators and students who are taking the campus to career league. Now, that career could be a corporate career, that career could be an entrepreneurial career. But oftentimes, when we are students, we are heavily overwhelmed by what we have just studied and what degree we have, rather than through life's experience. So, if somebody is becoming an entrepreneur at 40, it is perhaps a deeper life experience that led them to choose this. But if you're a student just passing out of an engineering college or a business school, then you probably are looking at, what am I good at? What do I have credibility in? What is my degree certificate? And then to shift the hat and to get into the skin of your consumer's point of view. Like, Seth Godin has this lovely example to go by, that people are not looking for a half-inch drill. People are looking for a half-inch hole on their walls. So if you are an engineering student and if you are thinking that this is how I have made it intricate and I will explain that to people, it's TMI, too much information. They don't need that. They just need the benefit. So how do you get into the character of your end users? How do you empathize with their problem? How do you stay open to know that, okay, fine, your first solution didn't work. That was a prototype. Over to the next. How do you find that inner compass? And how do you find that perspective that is not your perspective? So how do I do that? The thing is that I told you I had a burnout 5-6 years back, and then I was actually bedridden. I was a stepper from quadriplegia, and I didn't know I would make it to this day. But now as I look back, all the dots join perfectly. As I look back at my career, I am, I studied quantitative economics from Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata. So, which is, of course, many of you would know is the premier institute in economic statistics, mathematics. So, I have that very strong academic, foundation to begin with. Then I'm a qualified associate actuary. I spent 12 years talking to the computer in the number language. And through 12 years of corporate life, I have both a very deep and pretty credible background in finance and actuarial understanding. We used to work with the balance sheet and the risk sides all the time. But I also have experience as a young professional, middle-aged professional to a mid-senior level leader, as well as a woman at workplace. And each of these angles contribute largely to the stories that I help people to bring out and the stories I tell that connect with them. Following that, I have a pretty interesting combination of liberal arts practice, because apart from, of course, self-studying Buddhism and positive psychology and trying to understand intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, how philosophy, psychology, and spirituality come together. Apart from that side, I have a very unique and interesting thing that first I started out writing a book, which actually I wrote a short story that was made into a short film that was screened at Cannes in 2016. We were invited to walk the red carpet. When we came back, I got an offer to write a book, which then got named as the among the 5 best novels in 2017. I wrote about urban loneliness and the need for empathy. So I am a novelist. I wrote a literary fiction. I also write regular columns with leading newspapers like India Times, Huffington Post, and many others. I also write short stories, poems. So there is this writing side of me. And then there is this speaking side of me. I've been a distinguished Toastmaster, a 7 years Toastmaster, and I've been a district finalist twice, and I'm double time TEDx speaker. So I have had somehow the practice of speaking a lot on stage, and somehow I feel people who speak at times, we focus more on delivery and less on content. And at times when you are an author, you go deep and intellectually and emotionally deep, but you don't articulate that much because you are more expressive through written words. So I bring the written and the spoken words together. And somehow I have also been very privy to writing scripts and writing screenplays for films and theater, because my husband is theater playwright, director, and a filmmaker apart from his day job. So everything happens at home, like in house. We always do something or the other, like big projects. So that liberal arts practice and creative art practice, I mix that with the corporate understanding inside the finance, the experience. And I also bring in my understanding of psychology, philosophy. And together, somehow, it becomes a very interesting combination. Because what I help people, therefore, to do is to find their combinations. Why do you do? What do you do? And how does it matter? Ethos. Why you? Logos. What do you do? And pathos. How does it matter? Our ethos, logos, pathos come together, and I think that is what makes the biggest difference. Whatever SDGs you are working in, I mean, we can definitely point it back to something in our life that made us stand up for that cause and not any other cause. Be it organic farming, be it mental health, be it teaching the less privileged, it is always somewhere some kind of life experience insight that pushes you towards that. There is a inner compass that pushes us, and that's major. At times when we hear these SDGs and when we hear the international discourses around it, I find that of course India is a very diverse country. Some of the discussions, especially because SDG 5.5 is a very specific focus for me, growing the next line of women leadership. SDG 5, of course, but SDG 5.5 to be very specific, because I work with a lot of leaders and, uh, policymakers, and 5.5, whatever that area focuses on. I feel that some international discourses At times when we bring that to India, because India has such a diverse population and also the social inequality is so diverse, when there are female feticides, when there are dowry deaths, many of the problems sound like first world problem. Like glass ceiling problem, really? You did not get promoted from becoming becoming a senior vice president from vice president because some male took over and they have a kotori, and in the boardroom you feel lonely? First world problem. Because we have so many burning issues. It's like a Maslow's triangle, right? If you are solving things, and there is of course a sense of urgency and visibility and tangibility, and of course, as a woman sitting with a whole lot of privilege, myself being educated, having access to resources, sitting in a tier 1 city in India, having tier 1 kind of educational background, what am I complaining about? And I'm not complaining only about myself, but I'm also complaining about everybody in the radar. However, it is very easy to lose the plot. And this is also the same for many people. Like if somebody, if there are asylums and people are getting treated badly, what are you complaining about not being able to find the kick in the morning, or, not knowing your North Star of career? There will always be levels in our SDGs. And I feel that we cannot uh, prioritize one over the other. Some are more burning, some are less burning, but these are very complex subjects. We have to have a multi-pronged approach. We cannot say that, we'll do it later. There has to be a concerted effort in every front. And especially, as social founders and change makers, whoever is listening, the other thing I feel very, very important is we oftentimes end up talking, for example, if we are talking about SDG 5, we end up forming a community of women. For the women, by the women, of the women, we write women columns, women read it, we all comment, like, share. These conversations do not reach our dining table with even one male in it. These conversations do not reach our machine conversations at work. And the same woman who is taking the stage by the storm on Women's Day goes to office on 9th March and feels exactly as lonely. I have been there, I have done that. I want to talk about these stories, and I want to bring the bystanders and the allies in the room, because nobody is an enemy. It's not that, anybody is like, really, one person is a victim and one person is the abuser. It's not like that. We are all in it together. In order to uplift the entire awareness and sensitivity piece, we need to bring everybody in the conversation. Now, how I help at Lighthouse, and especially when social founders and change makers come to my programs and we have these circles and we have these conversations, I make it a point to help them to formalize and formulate a conversation, a branding, a messaging that talks not just to a small group of self identified people, but to the bystanders, but to the allies, but to the collaborators. Last year around this time, I did a conversation around parenting where I got all the fathers together. Tell us your fatherhood stories. We are enough done with asking and doing statistics around what is the share of motherhood in parenting, what is the share of fatherhood. I got the fathers in. One father of a newborn, one father of, somebody flying nest, one very old father. And that's what I feel we need to do as social founders and change makers. And I am very privileged that I'm not just a social founder myself, but through my work, I get to work with a lot of social founders. So there is a ripple effect to the work that I do at Lighthouse, and that really thrills me, because alone I can only do that much. But when I infuse this germ in other people, that multiplies. And I have seen that happen in this short journey of Lighthouse. I have been overwhelmed with the success stories and the case studies and how it happens. So, really, my work once again is to tell you that, whoever you are, if you are a student deciding what to do in the future, if you are a student who has made up his or her mind about I want to go the corporate way, I want to go the academic way, or I want to go the entrepreneurial way. Or if you are a returning mother or a returning woman or somebody on sabbatical, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are an incubator who is serving a large number of entrepreneurs, if you're a platform and wondering how to engage your community members on the social theme without losing the plot or without letting everything, every other force take it away. And if you are a corporate leader, if you're a corporate manager to leader kind of a space where you are trying to transition, if you are a corporate HR and if you are wondering how to humanize your workplace and make people want to come to work, here is what I do. I help you tell why you do what you do and how that matters. And that makes a world of difference. Thank you, Avinash.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the thought provoking talk, ma'am. It really inspires a great lot for the audience as well as for all those listening to this, ma'am. Audience, since Sinjini and Gupta, ma'am, has a pre-pond appointment, we are like pre-ponding the Q&A to Sinjini, ma'am, right now. So, ma'am, like the first question that comes to mind while checking your Lighthouse website, I got a quote from you. Like, all we need to do is to learn how to get out of our own way. So, could you please throw some light onto your own words, ma'am?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that you picked up that line. I somehow feel, and I say that a lot in most of the workshops I do, that each one of us, we are like snowflakes. We are so many of us, but then each one of us are so unique. Our fingerprints are different, our face is different, our voices are different, our abilities are different, our reason is different. I was watching this nice film a few days back called Hugo, where it is about, it's a very, very sweet film. I'm sure if you haven't watched, do give it a try. It says that every person on earth, like a machine, there is no part that is dispensable. Every part has a role to play. So, like that, each one of us, we have a role to play. And we are a certain thing because we have that role to play. If I discovered so late in life, oh my God, I can speak and I can write. And I didn't know that because I was talking to the computer in number language for 12 years. But there is a reason why I can speak and I can write, because I have a gift and I have the responsibility to share it with the world. But I was standing on my way because I grew up on Cerelac Horlicks and the Great Indian Myth that told me, do the right thing, study the right subjects, crack the next exam, crack the job interview. This is your path. All we are doing is standing on our own way. All we are doing is suffering from imposter syndrome. Who am I to say that? Who am I to do that? That's too big. My personal experience, my shame, I burnt out. I could not survive. Oh my God, so many people have more number of children, more number of years of experience. They're doing so well. I'm so ashamed of myself. And I was that person. I'm talking for myself. I was standing on my own way. There is a reason why my 12 years of corporate is getting coupled up with my 8 years of liberal arts and my spiritual, and they all fit in just as perfectly as maybe a 30-year of corporate would have. There is a reason why it happened to me. We just have to move out of our own way and just clear our path so that we can become ourselves.
Got it. Ma'am, like stories are really very important. When we narrate stories, it really inspires others to choose their next set of actions or choices in their life. So, how do you think, ma'am, like in this specifically in this pandemic, how do you think the power of storytelling enabled to create a platform, a space of leadership and emotional well-being among, especially among the women community in India, ma'am?
Sure, absolutely. And that's a very pertinent question. Before I go to the women community or leaders, let me just tell you one thing. So just a few months back, unfortunately, we were all very alarmed, and also some of us were personally hit. Some of us were like really alarmed by what was happening with the second wave in India. Now tell me, if I told you that the number of beds, I am in Gurgaon, so in Delhi NCR, speaking from a more localized point of view, going with the theme of your webinar today. If I told you that there are 20,000 beds in Delhi, and on an average we are getting these many cases, and only these many beds are actually supplemented with oxygen cylinder, and these many beds have ICU. How does the government even do this? Or how does the state government, national, prime minister, whatever? So how do we even, like, we talk in those terms. The other way of saying this is, what happened to my neighbor last night? This old lady, she stays all by herself, and around 7:40 in the evening she gave me a call, and her voice was faint, and then we immediately called for ambulance, but no ambulance would come. And then they were starting to bid, and finally, even when we committed this amount, they said no, we want extra. And then by the time this happened, the thing is, she is not alone. Like her, there are on an average 800 900 people every day in this area. Which narration touched you better? So that's the power of story. Stories humanize. And just as I said, to repeat, the only way left to be human is to be human. Because if you do not appeal to the senses and the sensibilities and the emotions of the people, just appealing to their intellect and to their critical mind won't cut it. Not anymore. We are very consciously moving away from that. I want everything. I want another big car. I want another big house. We are, as a race, moving away to deeper sensibilities. I think the lockdown is actually a brilliant metaphor when they said essential services. What do you need versus what do you want? And we figured out we need so less, we want everything else just like that. It's become our habit. Stories help you because stories bring you in touch with yourself. Stories also make you feel good about your life. What if I ask you, who were your childhood friends? Were you a loner or were you very popular? What would you do in summer vacations? The moment I ask you, your mind goes to that space of imagination rather than cribbing and being cynical and being sarcastic about life and politics and universe. And if you take the same gift, it is not that you go on a retreat, tell stories, come back and become dog eats dog. You can infuse it in your world, in your life. Boardroom conversations, coming to leaders, and then I will come to women. When I was fresh into my corporate life, we would have these bar diagrams, pie charts, and during town halls we would just look at the watch and wonder when is lunch. And the leaders would say, our quarterly targets is this is the MIS report, guys, if we do this, who cares? Now the leadership language is changing. It's personalized. It's active voice, not passive voice. Not that, guys, we are targeting a profit, but what can I do? What can you do? The language is changing. If you see, the advertisement language has moved from the billboards to become so personalized, just almost talking to us one to one. So that is where stories make a world of difference. And for women, I think, this idea of stories is almost a reclamation, because all the time when we left our job to take care of home, and we were telling stories to our children and putting them to sleep or feeding them, and suddenly it's the hottest thing in town. It's the time for emotional intelligence. And women, I think, somehow, with the stereotype jobs or with some genetic makeup, I don't want to stereotype. There are many soft, sensitive women, and hard, strong, taskmaster women, and similarly there are men. Masculine and feminine traits and male and female are quite, it's not like a black and white thing. However, women do have a very natural, innate ability of storytelling, of emotional conversations, of being able to hold space, of being able to listen and talk and intuitively understand what somebody needs, even when they're not saying it in exact words. If we can bring that sensitivity into workplaces, if we can bring that nurturing, workplaces will become humanized. And if it is humanized, we won't need to look at the DNI numbers. We would belong. We would be loving to go to work. If tomorrow you have to leave early, I'll cover up for you rather than reporting you to my boss or to your boss. And that is a small thing, but scaled up, that will change the economy.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And it's been great hearing out to you, ma'am. So all the best for the next appointment coming up. I believe you've been on a run, and thanks for attending and accepting our invitation to this dialogue. And it's been great hearing to you, a thoughtful session, a insightful session. It's been really enriching, man, and looking forward for much more collaborated initiatives together with all the panelists, especially ma'am with Lighthouse too. Looking forward, man. Looking forward. Thank you so much.
Absolutely my pleasure. And I will be missing out on Neenu's, Gaurav's, and Avinash, your thing, but please send me the link. I would definitely love to watch that. I'm so sorry. I had to rush today morning, but I would definitely catch it as soon as I can. All the best to the rest of you.
Yes, Sanjana. Best of luck.
Same
Thank you.
here. It's always Sinjini is a good friend of mine, but it's always a great inspiration. Or we will hook to her stories always. I listen to her many times, but each and every time it's a new inspiration or a new thought. Thank you for this, Sinjini, and
Oh, I
all the
love
best
you.
for all.
Yeah, much love. And yeah, I'll catch up on yours as soon as I can. I don't want to interrupt the session. Please move ahead. Much love to all of you.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. Yeah. Now over to Gaurav. So you left the civil service and joined X Billion Skills Lab. And how's been the journey? I mean, your opening remark on localizing SDGs. Where's your contribution, and how guys at X Billion Skills Lab are working towards the
Uh,
achievement of SDGs? Over to you.
Thank you so much, Avinash and SDC for inviting me. And before I talk about myself, I think I would first like to kind of talk about sustainability. I think when I was studying for civil services and when we were undergoing training, sustainability actually was a core part of a lot of things that we were learning and doing. And when we were interacting with our seniors as well, from services and from different walks of life, I think this was something that was discussed in a lot of detail. I think we all know about the three pillars, the economic and the social and as well as the environmental. But yesterday when I was thinking about what are the pillars according to for me or for an individual who might not be at a policy making level or might not be at a very high at a very high up sort of a status in terms of maybe in the government or in the corporate sector. And I think three words immediately came to my mind. I think first is hope. Why hope? Because I think we just all have to be extremely hopeful that each and every action of ours, doesn't matter how small it is, doesn't matter the fact that it might feel like just a drop in the ocean. The fact is that it can become a ripple and maybe a wave in the near future, right? So that hope is at the core of sustainability. Second is opportunity. Why opportunity? I think we are at a era at a time where either we have the opportunity to go forward and kind of undo a lot of mindless and sometimes unintentional action that we have done in the past century, kind of overcome that. We have that opportunity, or I mean, go completely the other way where we say, I'm just going to live for myself, and I'm not going to be there for tomorrow. So let this opportunity go by, because I'm not going to be alive anyway. So we have an opportunity to move forward and kind of undo what we've done in the past century. Third, and I believe the most important, is choice. I think most of us are extremely privileged, mainly because we have choice to eat whatever we want, choice to study where we want, choice to wear what we want, choice to travel what we want, choice to do so many things on a daily basis which we take for granted. And this is nothing but privilege. And I think again, this choice is something that differentiates us from a majority of the world population, who do not have a choice to decide what they want to eat, what they want to wear, where they want to work, to think about their carbon footprint, to think about what they want to study. They are literally moving from day to day, week by week, thinking about just survival and nothing else. And that's where I think people like us come in, people who have had a privileged educational background, privileged social economic background, where we have the opportunity, we have to be hopeful, and we have to be very mindful of our choices as to what we are kind of deciding, because that not only impacts us, but so many other people who do not have the privilege to make that choice. So the combination of hope, opportunity, and choice, according to me, is what sustainability is. On that note, I mean, I would briefly like to talk about what X Billion Skills Lab does. X Billion Skills Lab has been formed on the premise of making humans relevant in the age of artificial intelligence and machine learning. We are so obsessed with technology nowadays. We are kind of forgetting the impact that we'll have on millions of people who are entering the workforce. Several of the tasks are being automated, and not just tasks in factories. A lot of the tasks which were earlier, limited to, say, financial sector, to even engineers, to salespeople. A lot of them, you would notice, are being done by algorithms, are being automated, right? Where thousands of humans were employed, but suddenly, a machine and algorithm comes up, they can work, for longer hours. Of course, the pay is just not comparable, because you just deploy the software once, machine learns automatically, and the human becomes irrelevant, right? So now the question which is very pertinent today is, when more than 1 million people are entering the workforce in India every month, what are we going to do about their livelihoods? And Sustainable Development Goal 8, I think, talks about meaningful and decent employment opportunities, right? So what is really happening around that? So when I was in civil services, I mean, just by the privilege of clearing an exam and spending a few years, you kind of ending up leading a team of thousands of people. And one of the people who I was leading and working with was my stenographer, and also my peon. You won't believe, they were more qualified than me on paper. I'm just a bachelor's in engineering, computer science. One of them had a master's degree, the other one had two master's degrees. And I was just a bachelor's, a civil servant, and leading not just them, but thousands of other people like them. That kind of hit me really hard. That there are thousands and millions of people like them who are, doing their degrees, working really hard, but are they really contributing in the long run? Are people like them who have so much potential really contributing, to the utmost level that they can? Of course, all jobs are important. No job, I'm not somebody who can say, or anyone for less matter, going to judge somebody for their job. But there are people who have so much more potential than what they are doing. So I was judging them by their intelligence. They are a lot more intelligence, but they lacked opportunities, they lacked exposure. So that made me think that maybe India's education system needs to kind of be revamped to a massive extent. We need to move away from our obsession of degrees, move away from our obsession of engineering, medical science, and just specializing in one field, because it's a fact that over the next 5 or 6 years, anything which is extremely process oriented, which requires a lot of repetition, will be taken away. It does not matter if you're a surgeon. If it's something that can be learned by a machine, it will be done by a machine. It can be as intricate as a surgery, right? So nobody today can say that my job is safe, in the next 5 to 6 years. So what do we really do? Now, this is where institutions like World Economic Forum, even UN to a certain extent, Accenture, they came up with a few skills that are going to keep humans relevant in the new world of work, and they are known as 21st century workplace skills. And these skills are actually all human skills. How do you storytell, which Sinjini talked about? How do you manage your workplace emotions? How do you negotiate with various stakeholders at the workplace? Do you have a purpose in life? Because if you have a purpose in your life, in your career, you are able to invest that much more time and effort in what you're doing and become more successful. Without a purpose, you're honestly just a machine doing, going from one day to the other. How do you kind of write fantastically well that you can evoke and invoke the right emotions? Now and again, one another skill was creative problem solving. We become so rigid in the way we think that somehow we've forgotten that as humans we've always been creative, right? From the fact that when we use flintstones to kind of discover fire, and now when we have drones roaming around the world, I think somewhere we've forgotten that humans are meant to be creative and not follow rigid processes. But our education system, unfortunately, has not honed these human skills. They kind of made us more robotic. At X Billion Skills Lab, it's our mission to expose the youth of India, especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities, in villages, in small towns, in 21st century skills, to expose them to these skills, so that even if they are engineers, even if they are doctors, even if they are marketeers, even if they are salespeople, even if they just want to do HR or admin, they have these human foundational skills. And using these skills, they can rise up to the top, irrespective of, like I said, what domain they are in. And it's not just X Billion Skills Lab who's saying this. Like I mentioned, World Economic Forum in their Future of Workplace report, big companies like Microsoft, Google, Tesla, if you look at their hiring criteria now, they don't look at your degrees. When they test you for a job, for a meaningful employment, they test your attitude, they test your behavior, they test how empathetic you are, they test how creative you are. And like I said, unfortunately, not all of us have been privileged to have gone to best of schools and best of colleges, and that's where a huge inequality issue comes in, right? There are so many of us, I include myself, who just by the virtue of the school that I went to, I was already in the top 3 to 4% of the people in the entire country, just because of the school that I went to, and not because of my innate intelligence. And I believe in X Billion Skills. I believe that all the people in the country, all across the world, have the innate intelligence, have the innate potential to reach to the topmost level. Right? What they lack is exposure, quality exposure at a cost which they can afford, and that's what we want to do at Experience Skills Lab. So far, we have trained about 50,000 people from all across the country. We usually tie up with colleges and kind of pitch our product to them and to the students through them. We've also now started doing corporate training because there are a lot of SMEs, small startups, small medium enterprises who again form the backbone of our economy. They don't have the right training infrastructure. They don't have the resources to spend so much on the new recruits. So we kind of fill that gap and ensure that their people are equipped, to be trained to solve the difficult problems that they are trying to solve. So in a nutshell, X Billions Kids Lab wants to make humans relevant again in the age of artificial intelligence. We strongly believe that it's your natural intelligence that will count, in the near future, and artificial intelligence will only be supplementary. But like I said, it's a mission which is very nascent, in the very nascent stage, because we are very very few companies in the country who are working on this. In fact, we were the first to kind of bring the narrative of 21st century skills to India at such a large scale. We have worked with United Nations Women. We've had a very special project, where we identified selected women in Mumbai from not so privileged socioeconomic backgrounds, and we trained them in these skills. And we are now, connecting them with the employers. We've also kind of working with UN, in creating advocacy of importance of these skills, so that people have meaningful lifelong learning opportunities, which I think is sustainable development goal number 4. I mean, I'm kind of forgetting 4 or 5, but the fact is that we've been working with government policymakers, United Nations itself, to kind of spread this message of the fact that if you want to be successful in the new world of work in the age of AI, you have to become more human. And that's the premise, and that was one of the reasons why I left civil services, mainly because my journey has been such ever since I was a student. So I'm a computer science engineer by education. I started working in finance because I did not enjoy coding too much. So my first job was in finance, and I worked there for 3 years. It was a very, I would say, a rewarding job in terms of money. But I again started feeling disillusioned, dissatisfied, because it was a very individualistic job. I was sitting in front of 6, 7 computers, investing money in markets all across the world and doing decently well. But that's when it suddenly hit me really hard, that if people like me with such a privileged education background does not do something at the grassroots level, be even that drop in the ocean that I talked about in the beginning, then it's just not worth it. So I resigned from my job along with a friend of mine who's now IAS in West Bengal. We both resigned from our job. We started studying for civil services with, again, the idea of doing whatever little that we can, for the people at the grassroots level. And that's when, when I cleared civil services, my motive was just the same, to be able to make a large scale impact for people in the field of education, skilling, or health. And luckily, I was part of a service, part of a post where I was responsible for human development, human welfare, and for skilling. And that's when I was, doing this project. It kind of hit me hard that, these measures that we're doing with the government, as a part of the system, as a part of the government, are very, very important and much needed. But alone, they are not enough. Something has to be done at a more fundamental level, especially when, like I said, there are 1 million youth young people with a lot of aspirations, with a lot of intelligence, with a lot of hunger are passing out. We need to do a lot more, and that's how the idea of X Billion Skills Lab was born.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. I strongly believe you are really an inspiration to so much of change makers out there. I mean, you've been like a part of, and you had a very big academic as well as a service, like serving for the country, and you just quit it and like to become a change maker that could cater for a better planet, community welfare projects. And it's really good to see you in place, and will be keeping you in touch with other change makers too, so that we could all collaborate together under one umbrella and could work towards the SDG goals 2013. It's interesting to see that all these change makers are like bringing an individualistic concept of actions to their like tying up with global goals as well and bringing in a change. So it's wonderful to hear your story, hear your journey. Thanks, Gaurav, for joining us, and we could like follow up with other in the Q&A session later on. Thank you, Gaurav. And let's move on to Neenu Rathin. So Neenu been like focusing really in the Kerala market in from in the projects like Chekutti, like me personally from Kerala itself, I really know the impact that the Chekutti dolls have made in the times of floods in 2018-19 in Kerala. So it's been very privilege. It's a privilege actually for me to talk with you, to interact with you, to have you on board, because the one who guides, who's been a project manager, who's been a community project manager for Chekutti and Ammumattiri. I mean, I've seen a lot about you. You contributing during the Kerala floods, working with many national, international NGOs, and now with the social town, you are like creating a platform for all the change makers to come under one umbrella. So if you could like tell your story and inspire us, enlighten us your journey and how you are really contributing to SDGs. Neenu,
Yeah.
the floor is yours.
Thank you, Avinash. But I have a confession to make before I start. I'm not a great speaker or storyteller. I don't have a ready-made script or anything. I will just start, who I am and what I'm doing and how I'm trying to contribute my bit towards the, betterment of the world. So let's start from my story. Yeah, I was a very loud and active girl during college days. I was very smart enough. I don't want to spend long years for study, so I don't want to do a BSc then MSc. So my cousins were all taking BA or MA. They wanted to do more courses and do something, but I was very smart enough, and then I chose engineering degree only because okay, it's 4 years and I will get a professional degree. So it is great. I didn't have any technology interest or active towards that course. But during the college days, I've learned a lot from professional degree, and I was my college topper, and I passed engineering with honors from University of Calicut, and I was placed in an MNC. But since I didn't have any aptitude towards that course or any interest in that particular subject, I was not I was not sure about my career goals or anything. I was not sure so what to do. Then I started my career as a lecturer in an engineering college. Then when I started teaching, I realized that I was not the right person to do that, because I cannot, I was not able to connect with the, the whole system or anything. I was not, I didn't feel, connected to the system. Then my choice was to get married and settle. So I got a good alliance, and then a long break in my career. This happened because I was not connecting with what I have studied and what I really want to do. Then I did my PG diploma in embedded system designing, then MBA in marketing, but I was not doing anything. But I was a good homemaker. I was studying, but I was there's something I want to do, but I was not sure. Then when I came back to Kerala in 2012, 2013, I started volunteering with different organizations, and I realized that okay, this is I wanted to contribute towards social development sector, but I don't know how and what to do. And being from very humble background, and I didn't have anyone to guide me, or I didn't have any exposure to this sector. And I realized that there's something missing. Especially, I was working with organizations in Kerala, it's international organization, but they're working in Kerala, and something is missing. And I wanted to connect with real people, real community builders. I wanted to talk with them, listen their stories, get insight on that, but uh, that was not happening. So I wanted to create a platform for people like me who can, they can connect with other community builders and change makers, and they wanted to, if they want to contribute, if there is a synergy, they can collaborate and work together. But as I said, I'm an engineer, I don't have any experience or exposure. Then I thought, okay, I will continue with my, experiments in the social sector. And I continued volunteering with different organizations. I initiated my own projects, and what I used to do is I initiate my own project. I went to schools. I talked to children. I inspired them, and I saw a multiplying effect. So if I'm planting, I'm planting one tree or maybe 10 trees. So if I can inspire others and empower others, so I saw the multiplying effect. So when I went to 30 schools, I saw thousands of trees were planted. I went there. I talked about the importance of tree planting. I planted 5 trees in one school, and I can see 1,000 trees were planted by the students. So I facilitated it. So I was curious about the multiplier effect that we can bring into the system. Then my then I started a business with my husband, that was into branding and event management. And I was more into concept consulting. Then I used to inculcate that social elements into the events. Even it is a beauty show, it's not, beauty is not outer. I used to inculcate some kind of social messages in the events we organize for everything. Then we had to wind up that whole business, and we had to move to Kochi because my son had some development issues. That was a great turning point in my life. When I reached Kochi, I got some real good opportunities. So I was very passionate volunteer since 2013. So obviously I started volunteering with some groups in Kochi, and post floods I got real good opportunities. As Avinash rightly said, I got an opportunity to work with thousands of volunteers during Kerala floods. It was a massive project. It was called Compassionate Kerala. It was initiated by Prashant IAS, and I got an opportunity to work close with the core team, and we were like 1,000 and 4,000. I don't know the exact number, maybe 4,000 to 10,000 volunteers, different parts of the world joined together, and we were coordinating everything. And technology was a great equalizer and enabler for the whole movement. So I realized that, okay, now I can think about the platform, so everything can happen virtually. Also I can connect with people, I can make things happen, I can multiply uh, you know the uh, the result we are already generating. Then I got an opportunity to work with Jekuti. Also, being a passionate volunteer, I instantly took the role of the project coordinator, and I got an opportunity to work with. It was a campaign happened in 9 countries. Around 50,000 volunteers participated. So I got an opportunity to work with. We are a very small team, a core team of 5 members. Lakshmi Menon, co-founder, and Govind Pare, they were the co-founders, and we were again 3-4 members. So we conducted in 1 month. We have conducted around hundreds of workshops, and I'm happy that my home was a place where I distributed all the materials for Jekuti, and thousands of Jekutis came back to me. I think I've collected 35,000 to 50,000 Jekutis at my place, and we sold that, and it was a massive project. That was again a multiplier effect. We were crowdsourcing. So if we were making Chekuti and doing it very small campaign. So many people joined together from different parts of the world. So that emotion, that spirit, that energy we were dissipating. So that came together and multiplier effect. Again, the what I mean, multiplier effect. And then I joined as a project consultant for an NGO in Kerala, and we were doing a project for main focus was we were doing a project for fishermen community in Kerala. So I was not aware of anything. So as Sinjini said, I was also from a very privileged background, and my situations never allowed me to go out and work in the grassroots level. I always wanted to do, but I was not a grassroots level activist. I was always a virtual person. I was coordinating everything. So everything Kerala flood happened through my phone only. Kerala floods, or whether it's Jekuti or what, everything I managed through my phone and a laptop. So I've never stepped out of my home. So it was first time I got an opportunity to work with the community level people. Then when I go and interact with a lot of fishermen, I've realized that everything is there. I mean, there are a lot of schemes by government. There are, a lot of people who would like to support them, and their community itself. They are a huge community spread across, the coastal areas. But all these resources were scattered. When I talked to them, when I realized that okay, they were asking me for help for their children education, but they were not aware of the schemes available. So I really wanted to, and I used to discuss with my team that okay, we should, we have to bring to everyone together, all the government officials, all the departments working for welfare organizations, and all the NGOs and their fishermen community members. If you can bring together all these people, all the stakeholders in the society, we can easily solve their problem if we make a conscious effort. So that's why, I thought about creating a multi-stakeholder platform. So then when the pandemic hit, I got an opportunity to work my idea of the social town. And the social town is a virtual collaborative platform for social change makers, as I mentioned. So we cannot solve a problem. So myself as a founder, I cannot do anything alone. So I need to connect with other organizations. I need to connect with grassroots level people. I need support from government. I need support from corporates. I need support from volunteers. That means individuals. So I am trying to solve bigger, larger problems by bringing each and every stakeholder together. So for example, yeah. So for example, it will create a great impact. I've realized myself. So if I'm developing a curriculum for underprivileged children in Kerala, so if I connect, so I've done all my work or all my research. I've prepared the curriculum and everything was there. If I want to multiply to expand my campaign all over India, all I need to is connect with organizations in different regions. They can just translate the curriculum I've made and take it to another level. So we don't need to always reinvent the wheel. That's when people come together, we can always take the help of volunteers also. So I've been active in volunteering sector. As told you, I was very passionate volunteer since 2013. I was continuously volunteering. So I know the benefit. I mean, I've learned everything through volunteering. So it is a win-win situation. So we are not utilizing it. So the social town is a platform where we leverage technology to harness the human resources available to enable and empower the social development sector. This is what we are doing. So I started my journey with the social town in June 2020. I was not sure about what to do and to do. When we started with some kind of market research, we prepared some surveys and we scheduled some interviews with stage makers. But then I got an opportunity to be a part of Women Startup Program, and it was just an idea when I joined IIM Bangalore Women Startup Program. Then I slowly started working towards the technology pattern. Then my inability in I'm a technically challenged person, I have to say. So nothing was working. Then I realized that okay, technology is just one part of it. So I can't wait until I develop a complete, full-fledged platform. So I started interacting with people, different stakeholders in the community. So currently we are interacting with around 2,000 from different parts of India and from abroad also. That means NGOs, social entrepreneurs, social work professionals, students, and we started organizing programs. I started bringing leaders and experts from different parts of the world through the Social Town Talk series. Many ask me, why do you need to invite people from outside? But I want to listen to their stories. When I invite my speakers, I don't give them a general format. Okay, if you want to present, okay, present it, you can use that. Or if you just want to tell and inspire people, you can do that. I will give you 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. You can use that time to interact with other social change makers. You can just interact, or if you are a very relevant statistics, okay, you can present. Or if you want particular about a project, show them a video or tell your story. It can inspire, or share your knowledge. You can inspire or do whatever you want. That really help many. I can see the change of organizations. I'm members of the social town. When we started, I was not sure about the whole process, but now it started connecting down. So I believe in bringing people together, especially different stakeholders, to solve the larger problems. So I think that will contribute to the the main goals or the global goals, or, what we call sustainable development goals. So it's all about starting connecting the whole dot and bringing everything together and solving together. So the social norm believe in collaborate, innovate, and interact. Thank you. I think I have conveyed my message, and now it is open for questions. I'm not, as I mentioned before, I'm not a great speaker, so I would like to interact.
It's been great hearing too. I mean, I believe you are becoming a great speaker. You're actually a great speaker right now itself. So it's been a great. And Gaurav, and for all the other audience out there, like Chekutti is a doll that we had the floods in 2018 in Kerala, back in our state Kerala. So Chekutti is a like there was an organization where Neenu was a part of. They like collected the recycle the old cloth, and they made dolls out of it. So then they distributed, and the market value was like international players were even private international players were like in queue during the flood times for the Chekutti dolls back in the state. So it really made a big impact,
Yes.
and people who lost jobs even like came to their plant and had the job, like they had the self resilient build during the time of crisis. So that's the story behind Chekutti dolls back in Kerala. So she was a
That's
part
a
of that.
wonderful story. Wonderful
Yes,
story.
yes, indeed, Gaurav. So it's been great hearing to you. So I believe like Social Town is like promoting much of the SDG number 17, that the
Yes,
God for
partnership, of course.
yes, partnership. So you're partnering up with various stakeholders in the social setup, calling for action. It's been a great moment actually. Congratulations and all the very best for the future endeavors as well. So let's move into the next part of our session, the Q&A session. And over to Gaurav first. So Gaurav, like India produces millions of graduates every year, but almost 90% of them are actually unemployed or underemployed, as you said during your opening remark. So, but we focus on academic system which just rely on marks or excellence on paper, whereas companies today need performance oriented benchmarks. So, what all methodologies can be included in entrepreneurship education or skill based education in learning as well as in teaching, Gaurav?
I think that's a great question, Avinash. I think first I'd like to mention that government, at least in the last year, has taken a very significant step forward with the new education policy. If you look at the new education policy, I think at least on paper, I think the challenge always lies with the implementation as far as government policies are concerned. But on paper, at least, it seems like something, if implemented very well, can go a long way forward in ensuring that our youth remains employable for a long time. Why? Because it kind of focuses on holistic development of students from a very, very early age. So it does talk about 21st century skills. It does talk about quantitative skills. It does talk about emotional intelligence. So, and it also talks about, not just focusing on academics, focusing on extracurriculars equally well and making it integrated, as a part of the education system. So I think I will have to kind of congratulate the government on that. So I think that's one step forward as to what the curriculum really should be. So first focus has to be on curriculum. You're very well, you're absolutely right when you say that too much focus on just one stream. So, for example, why do I have to choose in class 11 that I'm just going to focus on engineering? Why can't I, have psychology with mathematics, with biology, or with sociology? Why can't I have a mix of subjects like it happens, abroad? Mainly because, like I mentioned, our experience skills lab also, our focus is on creating smart generalists, because if the more you specialize, the more your job is going to be a threat in the near future. The more you generalize, in the sense that if you are, so gone are those days when people used to say be in the top 1% of the subject. No, my friend, you're going to lose your job. What we say is be in the top 20% of 5 6 things. If you are that, then you'll bring an exposure and understanding to an organization where you will be valued a lot more versus somebody who just brings one perspective. So the whole idea of teaching somebody in class 11, 12, even in college. So I'm an engineer. I'm ashamed of the fact that 4 years I wasn't taught about, the world wars, about society, about psychology. I had absolutely no idea. Until I joined civil services, I kind of, then I got to know what are we doing? What is it? Our education system is totally flawed, because engineering, without of a, a social focus, a psychological focus, is of no use at the end. Because in engineer, the main point of being an engineer is to solve problems. But if you're not solving problems for the people, then who are you solving it for? So I think the whole multidisciplinary angle to education is a fantastic way forward, and I believe curriculum is step one there. Step two is regarding how are we teaching, and I believe that unfortunately even the teaching methodology today in India is not up to the mark. I think again we are focused too much on textbooks, on theory, whereas when we're not in touch with what's happening around the world, and that's where the huge inequality comes in. The good schools, which insane amount of fees, kind of have teachers who keep themselves updated. They have the tools to train the teachers at a periodic level, but unfortunately at the grassroots level, that may or might not happen. So that's why I believe edtech can be a very good sort of a not a replacement, but something which can be an additional tool along with, just to help teachers, enable them. So for example, if there's a maths teacher who's been teaching the same thing for the past 20 years, edtech, where their small organization maybe focusing on very niche subjects, can help them to understand, okay, what are the new things that are happening around the world related to their field. And that's where organizations like us come in. So we tell colleges that, if you do not specialize in skills that we are teaching, it's absolutely fine. You focus on your academics, your core, and we, just because of the fact that we're a small organization, we create new content almost on a daily basis, which a college cannot afford to do. Tie up with us. And I think that's where the beauty of edtech, comes in. So that's where teaching methodology comes in, where you personalize education based on who your learner is. You kind of understand what the learner is understanding, what they're not understanding, how they're responding, whether they like reading stuff, whether they like watching videos, whether they like to listen to animated videos or to actual humans. So based on their choices, their behaviors, their content can be customized. So that's the second answer to the question which we talked about, methodology. Third is testing. I think testing is probably the worst of all. Why? Because again, I'm not going to say I've been the smartest of kids, but I could crack exams because I knew that there's a certain way to study to crack exams. And I might not still know the ABCD of computer science engineering, but I cracked all the exams in my college. That just kind of proves that we are testing for concepts and ideas which are not applicable in the real world, right? So that's where assessment part is also changing quite significantly actually over the past few years, where we have scenario based testing. We have, like I said, personalized testing, where based on the understanding level of the student, we slowly kind of graduate to higher levels of difficulty, which is extremely important. You cannot have one level of examination for everyone. So it's the same person. One person can take 10 months to reach a level, whereas another person in the same class or the same age can take 15, 16 months, right? But if you kind of force him or her to reach that level in 10 months, just because your academic schedule is like that, then it's going to be a disaster, right? So I think that's where assessment is also changing to quite a significant level.
Exactly, Gaurav. It's like like enabling youngsters to become jack of all trades.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, yes. So how was the competition like with some big names in the skill-based education system? We do have some big names, both international, especially an international player is actually from a home country itself. So how was the competition like surviving toe to toe with some big names in the area of skill-based education? How's the competition going?
So, Avinash, to be honest, a lot of the competition that exists currently, especially skilling firms, they're focusing on technical skills. Learn coding, learn data science, and if even those who are not teaching 21st century skills, they're probably teaching you digital marketing, how to sell, how to be productive. There is no, when we started, we were actually one of the first ones to just focus on 21st century workplace skills, which people used to call as soft skills. I hate the word soft because people think that it's something which is just optional in nature. No, they are your absolute foundation, your core, right? So we were one of the first companies to just focus on creating smart generalists and on soft skills, right? We also have a fantastic organization, Harappa Education, started by Mr. Pramath Sinha, a very well-renowned educationist. I mean, but when they entered after us, it was a huge validation for us because it kind of proves that this space is extremely critical, right? This space is something which has to be catered to. Otherwise, we are not going to adhere to a lot of sustainable development goals. Not going to have our youth do meaningful jobs. So competition, I believe, is always a good sign because the more people enter, that means the more validated you feel. And so, yeah, I mean, in terms of competition, we're not too, I won't say afraid or worried. I mean, I guess it makes us more excited because all these people become part of the same mission and vision. And collectively, we want to achieve, the same goal. And I believe India is a huge enough market, large enough market to have multiple dedicated and passionate people to solve the same problem.
Yes, Gaurav, exactly. Or to Neenu, like for a country like India, what are the challenges faced in turning ideas into actions, and how do these social startups or NGOs find funding or build a financial plan to support their ideas and to support in making initiatives to turn their ideas into actions. So how did the social town find funding contribution from the corporate world, or how did you guys make a financial plan for your social startup
Yes.
thing?
So it's a very, very, very important and relevant question because most of the organizations or the social, enterprises start with a passion to solve a social problem, but they, probably don't have a relevant business plan or revenue streams or, we in entrepreneurship, they got business model canvas and all, but nobody in the any organization, whether it's a charity organization or social enterprise, whether it's non-profit or for-profit social enterprises, they're not teaching impact business model canvases, which is very, very, very relevant. So my advice before starting, how we can go ahead and to generate revenue through our while solving problems, I would like to mention that if you are trying to enter into social development sector, starting a NGO, make sure that you have all the skills and tools and to run a business itself. I mean, generally, it's very, very important whether it's a charity organization. It doesn't matter. We need technical skills. We need nowadays. Without technology, we cannot do anything. We need marketing skills. We have to be competent. We need to show the world, okay, what we are doing. So all these skills are relevant whether we are solving a grassroots level problem or we are doing some working for some international collaborations. It's very, very important. So make sure that you whether you have passion, not just passion can help you to so make sure that you have all the tools and resources to make it happen. So major challenge when I worked as I told you, I was a passion volunteer and then I turned as a project consultant. I've realized that most of the grassroots level organizations, they are not competent. When I even during my customer validation interviews, I realized that when I was discussing with CSR leaders, they're not competent. They are spending their huge CSR money. It should be accountable. They are accountable. The whole process should be transparent. And for executing the project with not just passion, not serve, we need some kind of expertise. Even if it is to implement a project, we need that kind of, and we should really stand out. And most of the project, what we are focusing only on outcomes. But now we need to start focusing on impacts. We need to whatever we are doing, so we are focused only on outcomes, but impact may be positive or negative, and we should be clearly aware of the impact we are creating, and the metrics should be in place to be competent in this field when they want to secure funds. Otherwise, there are two or more options for to generate. They can have a completely non-profit organization depend on donations, but that will not work in future because most of the big organizational CSR companies, they have their own foundations and their own projects, so they will not fund unless and until you have a big name or you have a big team to or backup to execute product. So donations will not work. Then the other option is you can do business and give back to society. The Social Town is actually registered as a Section 8 company. Now you have an option. So it's a private limited company under Section 8. It's a non-profit organization, but I can do whatever business I want and generate revenue and give back to the society. I'll not be able to take profit, but I can do whatever business I want, but I have to give back to society. Then you have hybrid model. You can have one, you can divide your entire business into two, and one can be, completely focusing on non-profit activities, and then one part it will generate money. So that these are the three ways you can find. But to achieve, if you are looking for corporate fund, make sure that you have studied your project well, you have a good team, you have all the tools and resources before you approach anyone who says that. Otherwise, it is always better to have some activities to generate your own money. Identify the revenue streams, and tap that, all possible revenues, and then you can bootstrap and build your own organization. That is the best way forward. Or you can have a hybrid model also. So that's the best
Agreed.
way forward.
Agreed, Neenu. Or to Gaurav, anything to add on the specific question?
And I want to add one more point before
Yeah, sure.
starting. Don't forget about the crowdfunding or crowdsourcing. That's always very relevant nowadays. Also, it is very very relevant. And make sure that you are not just sending a proposal to corporates. Always make sure that you are being part of the ecosystem is very very important. Be part of the ecosystem. So whether it's try to get involved with all stakeholders, that will give you visibility, and also to showcase your projects and activities, and other people will be interested to make sure that you are building something, or you are doing something worth investing their time, effort, or money. That's very very important. It's not just about your ambition or passion to solve a problem, but make sure that it is worth solving, and it's worth someone feel that investing their time.
Yes, Neenu. Yeah. Or to
Yeah,
Gaurav.
yeah. I mean, I absolutely agree with Neenu there. I think one of the foremost things that I read a long time back is, I mean, the market does not care about your passion. The market does not care about, what your skills are. It only cares about what it values and what it needs, right? And by market, of course, talking about problems, right? So when you're trying to solve a problem, be very sure that the problem is worth solving. Secondly, you are the right person to solve it. I'm not saying don't believe in yourself, but sometimes you always need to know that what are the kind of skills that are required to solve that problem, and do you have that in you or not. If you don't, then please reach out to other people in your circle, through maybe organizations like Social Town, where it kind of help you collaborate with other kinds of people. But don't just start because you're passionate. I think it requires a lot
Correct.
more than passion to kind of do big things. Passion, of course, has to be the base, can be the base, but it's not the only thing which is required. As far as the finances are concerned, I would say social enterprise. A lot of social enterprises that are coming up. We are also, one of them, and we were very lucky to find like-minded people who believed in our vision and invested in us. And since then, we have been self-sustaining, in the sense that we have generated enough revenues to kind of continue our operations. Now we are again trying to raise another a round of funding, but again we want to reach out to people, and I think it's very important for people to know that reach out to people for funding who believe in you and your mission. And I believe if just to get money, for the short term, if your long term goals don't align, then it's only going to create problems later on. So be very very mindful of where you're raising money. I believe today, we are not as resource constrained as we used to, especially the social sectors. A decade back, there are a lot of good foundations, a lot of HNIs, a lot of impact funds who are investing in unique ideas, new ideas, and even very, very young people. So, I mean, don't be in a hurry to raise money. Do your research. Be very aligned in your thought processes. Who you're researching, who you're going to take money from, and then move forward.
Exactly, Gaurav. Yeah. So Gaurav, over to you again. Like we have this system in place where nowadays youngsters just Google up like what are the top employable skills and what are the skills looked up by the top giant X company. So they will be like then learning on those skills just to get an employment. So actually they forget about themselves, like where their skills stand, where their talent stands. They just like look forward and equip themselves with skills that the employer wants. So it's like the employer works and looks like they look for ideas or job openings to suit their needs, the employer needs. most of the multinational companies don't give a space for their employees to like explore around the place and find their correct fit. So do you really think that we need to find a new narrative in the area of skilling, where we should make understand the employer and employee that both parties should be aware of what skills are needed and what skills are they really occupied with? So should we like create a new narrative of skilling in a country like India?
Yeah, I think again that's a very interesting question, Avinash. I think the things have kind of changed in the past 1.5 years. If you've been reading about the employment scenario, there are a lot of youngsters across the world, not just India, who are quitting their jobs, who are changing jobs. Why? Because their values don't align. They don't feel that it's the right place. They don't provide work-life balance. They feel that their skills probably are more valued somewhere else. So I think the narrative has already kind of changed, where the ball is in the court of people, of young people who do have the right mindset skills to contribute to organizations. And I believe visionary organizations, even 4 or 5 years back, started considering their employees as volunteers. Why? Because they know that if they don't treat these their people well, I mean, they're just going to come there, work for 6 7 months, and they're going to leave. Because people who are smart, people who are intelligent, who can contribute, will always be valued across the world. So I think companies are kind of coming to the terms that it's, I mean, they need to look at it from the employees point of view as well, and not just focus on what they want to do as a business. So that's number one. And I think if you look at the biggest organizations, they have started kind of focusing on that. Second is from the students' point of view. I believe the skills that we are teaching 21st century skills, and why they are known as 21st century skills, as they are transferable skills. I mean, it doesn't matter what you want to pursue. It doesn't matter what you want to do today or what you want to do later on. Without these skills, unfortunately, you won't be successful. And that's why these skills are absolutely important for the employers to ensure that every single employee of theirs contributes, and also for the employees or the young people who are entering the corporate world to understand that just knowing coding or just having an MBA degree or just having a bachelor's in mass communication, etc., is not going to cut it out. Because the value of a degree today, or the life cycle of a degree today, is not more than 1.5 to 2 years. That's how the world is changing. That's how fast the world is changing today. So any youth, any young person who does not realize that, unfortunately, might get a good job, after college, just because they're from a good college, but will not be successful. Because again, I also kind of learned it the hard way, where in college, again, I was lucky. I did not like coding, so I spent my time organizing fests, doing a lot of sports, reading up on a lot of different things. So it happened. I mean, it just happened to me. But then I realized, there are a lot of friends of mine who just focus on their niche field. They are not as successful as they could have been, mainly because they lack these human skills, right? So a lot of people realize this a lot later on in their careers. When I'm not saying it gets too late, because it's never too late to learn, but then you kind of lose a lot more opportunities, because your value at the age of 40, value of your time is a lot more than the value of your time when you are 18, 19, when you can actually spend a lot more effort and resources on building these skills. So I believe the narrative both sides has to change, and the good thing is it is definitely changing and moving in the right direction.
Yeah, thanks, Gaurav. So let's go for the final question of the day, of the session. Or to Neenu. Like Neenu, after graduation, especially in a country like India, we have so much of doubts among the youngsters. The pressure from the family, the pressure from the society, especially among the women. There's a pressure of getting married or finding a job, setting out, like becoming a homemaker. So how does the youngsters really find their passion out? I mean, how could like they deliver to the society on a large, find their passion? It's really a question of matter, really, because in the pandemic time itself, we have seen the number of suicides on not getting, on not qualifying for the NEET, on not getting in the top level company, has been a matter of been a reason for many suicides among the youngsters in our country, especially. So the mental health has been really in a very bad position in India among the youngsters, especially. So how tough it was for Neenu for finding the social Tamil initiative, like a lecturer turned social entrepreneur, how difficult was it, the journey? I mean, does the family gave you the support, does the community gave you the support? So what's the final advice that you could give out to the all the aspirant young entrepreneurs out there?
Yes. So I'm maybe a great example. I've already mentioned that I had a long break in my career, and I was, completely at my home, a complete homemaker. I was not aware of anything happening outside the world. I was just simply cooking and watching TV, and nothing was happening to me. But I had, an intuition in mind. I wanted to do contribute something. That feeling was alive, but it was very, 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 very tough. I started realizing it lately. So now the whole system is changed. Now we have more opportunities. We are very digital. We can connect to the world sitting at home at any place. So now we have opportunities. Make use of that. And I always, maybe I'm always an advocate of volunteering. But I want to say that start volunteering, engage with people. So I'm planning to start the social clubs in colleges and schools, and I want to connect with people, interact with people. I want give them exposure to the social and community problems and give them skills and tools to solve it. So let them be a doctor, let them be an engineer, let them be an architect. Doesn't matter. They can at least connect to people and find their purpose in life. So we are always thinking about, I had problems because I was, sitting at home and I had all luxuries. I have to say that, I was, post marriage, so I was lucky to have all. So I had a driver, so even if I want to check out, the driver was waiting, so I can go to the mall. He will wait for me. So after the shop, he will carry my bag. Even if I want to go, I had all this, but I realized that this is not, life. This is not life. And we are not part of the entire system. We are a social being. We are a social being, first of all. So be self-responsible. Be it sustainable development goals or problems around you. All, be a human being, be a social being. So it will help you to see outside, your small world, and start volunteering early, because you will, as I told you, irrespective of your field or your interest, you can be a contributor towards the, betterment of your the well-being of others around you. So focus not just on you, but the outside world as well. Realize your passion at the earliest. That is possible only if you engage with this kind of activities. When you listen to stories of others, when you engage in other activities, you will realize, okay, this is my passion. So then you be a doctor or an architect, then you will be better, be a better human being. Then you can be a great part of this community. So that then the suicide tendencies or health, it can solve these kind of problems. It has, when you feel that you are relevant, your existence is relevant not just for you but for others. If you're helping someone, and if you are, if you can see the smile in a student after securing high marks when you give tuitions, so you feel relevant in this world, right? So give, so you feel, and secure a place, a carve space for yourself in this community. So if it is possible for me, so I don't have anyone to support me. I don't have any big names, or I didn't have most of my life. I was either a homemaker or then I was volunteer. I didn't have money to set social. But then I realized now I'm interacting with, and believe then even for our talk series, heads of UN initiatives were part of our talk series, because I wanted to do that. I didn't tell them, okay, I'm a big person, I have become. I didn't tell them, okay, this is my passion, this is what I'm trying to do. Can you talk to people and help is all around and be a social being? Then you will feel relevant. So yeah, that's the
Thank you,
best part.
Yes, thanks, Neenu. Like we could really see the passion in the eyes of Neenu actually while she speaks. I mean, it's great to see that. And or to Gaurav, anything to add on the specific question? Any advice to the budding entrepreneurs out there, the aspirant?
And can I add one more point
Sure,
for
sure, Neenu, sure.
yeah, don't wait for the society to change or anyone help you. You have a place here. Realize that if I can do it, you can do it. Because I don't have any particular skill set. I had a career break. And no matter who you are and where you are, if you are willing to do something, then go ahead and do it. The others will follow you. That's my example. No one's, even my parents don't know what I'm doing. Even right now, okay, she's doing something because they are from very humble. They don't know. When my my husband's family, you asked that question, no? They were not aware of this. They're okay, they are financially secure, then why do you need to do this? But if you have some kind of privileges, you are responsible. Realize that you are responsible and change yourself. Don't wait for the society to change. Change yourself, and society, everyone will follow.
Yes, Neenu. How to Gaurav?
Yeah, I think Neenu covered it very well. I think one advice, especially to people who are still in school and colleges, is to take as much risks as they can, explore as
Yes.
much as they can, because I think the cost of risks early on in their career is way lesser. And I think that's one philosophy that I've always followed, moving from engineering to finance, finance to civil services to a startup founder. And I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I think your decision making should always be based on what your purpose in life is, um, what your learning opportunities are going to be in that specific career. Because if you feel stagnant in a some for the outside world, civil services could be very attractive, right? But I mean, for some it can also inhibit learning, because you rise up on a yearly basis, the promotion is fixed, and you can become very complacent. So if you are somebody who is very very hyper in terms of making change on a fast, quickly, without really realizing, or without really going to waiting for other people to approve your things, then maybe civil service is not for you. So there are a lot of opportunities out there in the world. Explore fast, fail fast, and of course, continue to talk to yourself on a daily basis. What do you like, what do you not like, what kind of person do you want to be. Kind of shut the world outside if they do not enable you enough to think differently. That's all the advice that I can give right now. I'm not more competent to give more advice than that.
Thanks, Gaurav. It's like taking up the risk, exploring your life, experimenting new things, and sorting it out. I mean, let's rediscover lives from scratches, from square one itself. It's all about experimenting things out and making a change out there. It's been great, wonderful talking to you. Great change makers out there, Sinjini ma'am, Gaurav, and Neenu. It's been great. What I believe is it's like coming together and making a collaborative effort to make that change possible. The most interesting, the personally, the goal which I love the most is the SDG number 17. That's a goal for partnership. That's all the 16 SDGs come together under this umbrella of SDG goal number 17. So 17 goals, 169 targets, about more than 200 indicators. It's time that India, it's time that the world needs to change, take an effort to make an individualistic effort to make these global goals achieved through local actions. So at SDC, Sustainable Development Council, we continue to make efforts in collaboration with many organizations and initiatives to make this happen in at least by 2013. So thank you everyone, thank you audience, thank you Gaurav, Neenu for joining us. It's been a very fruitful session. Thanks for all the insights on various areas you've been working with, the insights for young budding social entrepreneurs out there. So we keep in touch, we'll be updating, we'll be collaborating with much more initiatives coming up. Thank you so much for joining us, Gaurav and Neenu.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
so
Avinash.
much.
Great meeting you. See you soon.
Same.
Thanks not to Viknesh too. Viknesh brother connected all these excellent panelists to us. Thank you, Viknesh, and looking forward to have a collaborated effort with you as well in the long run with SDC and other many organizations all together. Thank you, Viknesh. So thank you everyone. Thank you audience. This is concluding. This concludes our session today. Thank you for listening us. It's been great with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Can I leave now?
Yes, yes, ma'am.